Well, hey, welcome everyone. I hope that everyone here is very excited about Vim. I'm very excited about Vim, and I'm kind of known as someone that gets a little yelling and screaming about Vim, so I'll try to tone it down a little bit and help you guys get focused up and awesome at Vim. So we're going to kind of go through this day. Hopefully we'll be able to stick to most of this. We'll see how it goes. We're going to start with just some basic introductions, hopefully some motivational material. After that, I'm going to go through the basics. Now, we're going to start pretty basic, and we're going to move from there because I don't know what level everyone's at, and it's best just to assume the most basic and go forward. Eventually, we'll touch on the VimRC. We'll touch on navigating files, going through things, marks, etc. We'll do some recapping, some plugins, some quick fix lists, some advanced tech manipulation, even writing your first little bit of a plugin. And eventually, I will then just get on here and pontificate about what I think is the greatest way to use Vim. That's kind of the ending. And so when we're kind of going through this, you'll notice that my Vim looks ugly, that the experience isn't that nice. That's because we're going to start with nothing, and we're going to slowly make it into something. Now, Vim is not a batteries included editor. When you use VS Code, everything's included. You open it up, looks really nice, you click around with your mouse. Hopefully by the end of this, you'll just take your mouse and gently place it in the garbage, and you'll never have to use it again. And you'll be able to fly on your keyboard, and it'll be fantastic. All right, so we're going to go through this. If you don't know, there is a Gatsby course. I believe I'll be linking it here. If you go there, you can follow along. You don't necessarily have to follow along. Any link that I'll be asking you to curl down and edit with Vim, I'll just be pasting it in the chat. So you don't have to worry a lot about that. All right, so like anything in life, a huge thing that affects our life is always our small decisions. You're going to be presented with a few large decisions in your lifetime, and those will greatly alter your life, but it's like a single moment. But a lot of the things that determine our destination aren't those big moments, right? And you can't control those big moments. You don't know when they're going to happen. You don't know how they're going to happen. It's the little things that really you can take control of. Like something as simple as just brushing your teeth every day. Obviously, you're going to have great teeth health, and you'll have reduced risk of heart attack. All these different things go into it just by making really small decisions. And that's not even really hard. Same with typing. If you practice, if you take it seriously, if you don't look at your keyboard, you'll get really good at typing, and your efficiency will go way up. And that is something that you just simply have to do day in and day out. And it's not like it's going to make you a better developer, but you'll be thinking less about typing. You'll be thinking less about the thing you have to do and more about the thing you're doing. And so it's just the little decisions. And Vim is like one of those little decisions. You simply have to commit to it. You have to learn about it. You have to practice each of the little moves. And throughout time, it will get better and better and better. And you'll get faster and faster and faster. But Vim is kind of weird, right? For those that haven't opened up Vim, if you open up Vim, it probably feels arcane, esoteric, strange, and then you don't know how to quit, and then you become a meme that exists all over the internet, and you can't quit Vim, and we all laugh at you, right? So it's like, it's a weird piece of software. So I kind of wanted to show how did Vim get started, or what was before Vim, really. So I'm going to give you the most brief and partially incorrect history of how Vim got started. So I'm going to jump back over here, and just for a moment, I'm going to open up a program called Ed. Ed came before Vim. Technically, it was X, but like I said, it's partially incorrect history of Vim. So I'm just going to open up a file. So let's find a file we can open up. How about the README? I'm going to open up the README with Ed. And when I do that, if I hit Enter, it's going to give me just a number. So if you're a developer today, how do you edit this file? Anyone have any idea? You probably don't, because I'm not even sure. I start hitting Enter, it starts saying question marks for me. Like, how did anyone develop anything at some point in their lifetime on Ed? Well, it turns out a lot of the software foundationally that was developed in this. So you can actually start typing in like line numbers. Let me see number 1. Okay. And then you can hit Enter, and you can like walk through the file. If I wanted to make, say, like I want to edit, say, let's just see what's on line 15. Okay, so we want to make an edit. I can type in s/ability and just say aboutily, right? All right, there we go. I've just changed a line. I am now a programmer. I've used Ed, right? And there's some other ways you can edit text and do things with Ed, but this is how life was at one point, right? I mean, think about coming from the punch cards. How great is this from punch cards? This is phenomenal, right? But for us, this looks strange. This is like, I would never be able to do anything effective in this because I couldn't remember where I was, anything like that. So to quit, you got to press quit, then you got to press quit again because I didn't save my changes, or maybe I saved my changes. I actually don't even know what I just did there. We'll just assume that everything went well. And so that's Ed. I think overall it just feels, that just feels too strange. I wouldn't recommend getting good at Ed. You can. It'll be kind of like hipster funny, but that's about as good as it will be. And so we'll move on. So Ed, during that time, about 1974, a guy named Bill Joy, or 1976, decided he's going to write something that's a little bit better. And he writes visual mode, which becomes known as VI. And VI is effectively where Vim comes from. And so he wrote this a long time ago. Back then, you couldn't get more than 1K worth of RAM. If you think about that, I think VS Code takes 1 terabyte of RAM or something like that. I'm not exactly sure how many gigawatts it takes, but I know it's a lot of RAM. And so imagine if you had effectively none. I don't even think you can spell Electron with 1K. It's very, very small. And so he wrote VI for very small systems. And one of the hard parts is that Emacs during that time costed hundreds of dollars. So not only could you get Emacs Pinky, you'd also have an editor whose learning curve looks like this. Very difficult, but you know, hopefully you'd figure it out eventually. You couldn't differentiate it at any point because it's just confusing out there. But you know, you could pay hundreds of dollars for Emacs, or you could use Ed. Bill made Vi. Things are looking good. But then, you know, when you start using Vi, you're like, wow, why is it H, J, K, and L for movement, right? I mean, this is, if you're using Linux at all, this is very foundational. H, J, K, and L is everywhere. I think it's in Twitter, it's in Gmail. So how did that get started? Well, it turns out Bill Joy may have been the only person on earth that had this keyboard, but he had the keyboard. And H, J, K, and L had the arrow keys. I mean, it could have been WASD, but now it's H, J, K, and L. And that's just how life works, momentum, right? And so Bill Joy, he did eventually quit using Vim and started using Emacs. And when he did that, he kind of left us with a little bit of words of wisdom. And his words of wisdom, of course, was people didn't know that VI was written for a world that doesn't exist anymore. In other words, what he was trying to say is that VI was originally written so he could edit code at home, and all he had was a 300 baud rate modem. Now, I'm pretty sure that if you looked in chat or anyone here, most people probably don't even know what a baud rate is. It's not a term we really use. It effectively just means bits per second. So that means he had a 300 bit per second modem. A character usually takes about 8 bits. Back then, they probably just had ASCII 256, so it was just 8 bits. And that's all they had. And so that means you could get 300 characters a second to come into your file. So, you know, it was written for a world that was much, much different. Today, on this internet that I'm here right now, the internet that I'm using right now is technically 3.3 million times faster than what he wrote VI for. So it's, you know, life's improved a little bit. But here's the deal, is that just because a world that existed and you wrote a tool for that world doesn't mean it's not applicable still today. And VI has gone through a lot of changes. It went from VI to an editor called Stevie, in which nobody knows about, and I'm not even sure how to get, to an editor called Vim, which was based on Stevie. And eventually, Vi was open sourced, but Vi was long since deprecated, and Vim became the de facto standard. Vim was also written by a guy, his name's Bram. It's been contributed to a whole bunch. It's really picked up steam in the last few years as somehow a comeback editor, because people are just really realizing how effective and how awesome it actually is. And so I'm here today, and hopefully we can kind of take that and make it into something, and everyone can at least leave here knowing what's available.